Hey, welcome back to Donald Miller's Electrical Services. So, I was requested to make a video explaining the different types of knob and tube wiring and the time periods of the wiring. All right, so knob and tube has been installed, was being installed from the early 1900s up until about 1930. You can find it in homes a little bit past 1930, 1934, 1935, but after 1930, a new style of wire came into play, and they stopped using single conductor knob and tube. So, in the main line, which would be like Route 30 coming out of Philadelphia west, all right, you're gonna find in some of like the larger older homes, they had the money in the early 1900s, so you're gonna find single conductor knob and tube in the basement there. Okay. Swarthmore, some of the larger homes in Swarthmore has it. Wayne, some of the larger homes in Wayne have it. um, the old towns that actually were well off in the early 1900s is the time period that we're speaking of right now. Okay, and this is where you'll find single conductor, you'll find knobs, and you'll physically find tubes in the basement. Okay, um, Haverford has that. There's some areas that have it. All right, that was installed. I want to say um, pretty much until like 1915, maybe even a little later. Um, and then a style of armored cable came about. Okay, and the armored cable came about, and it was a greenfield. Well, and it's called greenfield, but it's like a two conductor wire. Okay, and the two conductor wire was, had the metal casing. Okay, and it was ran in the basement primarily. Like you can find homes that have it going throughout the house. Okay, but primarily it was ran in the basement. Okay, and then it went up to the first floor to the baseboard outlets, and then from the baseboard outlets, single conductor took over from there. So at least in the Philadelphia suburbs area. Okay, that's not to say Ohio is the same. It's not to say other areas of the country are the same. The electricity was just starting, and the NEC code book was different all over the area. So they really didn't get a firm foundation on, at least universal wise, until later on. All right. So I'm speaking about the Philadelphia metropolitan area. All right, you would have a greenfield style wiring that would go to the first floor. Okay, from the first floor, you would have single conductor knob and tube running throughout the house. And that's often where homeowners get surprised, because an inspector doesn't necessarily tell them they have knob and tube if he doesn't see the single conductor in the basement. Inspectors don't always know that the greenfield is knob and tube. So, and that's where inspectors miss some things here. And I'm not talking about an electrical inspector. I'm talking about the home inspectors. All right. So if a home inspector doesn't realize that that armored cable's knob and tube, he might not mention it on his home inspection report. Um, some home inspectors don't mention it at all, because they're the home inspections. It's like a 6-week course, and there's only so much you can learn in 6 weeks. Okay, so when we start talking about knob and tube, you can't rely just on your home inspector. I would rely on the date of the house more than the home inspector, especially if you're looking for if the home has a remediation letter. So if you know that the house was rewired, if it should come with some type of remediation letter guaranteeing that there's no knob and tube. And if the guarantee is a true guarantee, if it's found, they should come back and remediate it for free. But let's get back to the types of knob and tube. So from what I've seen, there's 3 different styles of knob and tube. Okay, you have your armored cable cloth conductors, you have your single conductor knob and tube, and then you have a style that came later on in the 20s. Okay, it was like all 3 styles were installed during the 1920s. Later on in the 20s, you have a style that's called a 2 conductor knob and tube. It's a to put it easily, it's the first form of Romex style wiring. It has 2 conductors. It has like a string in the middle as a stress relief, and then the outer jacket is like a hard tar shell cloth. Okay, so if you get a razor blade and you cut it open, you're gonna have two conductors that are inside of it. Okay, and 9 times out of 10, they're like a zebra pattern. So like the white has a black stripe, and then the black has a little bit of a white stripe. But you can tell the difference between the black conductor and the white conductor. And it is color coded on those. So knob and tube doesn't always have to be color coded. Most of the times it wasn't. Like you wouldn't be able to tell the hot conductor from the neutral conductor. So that's just the color codings as well. So knob and tube, like we just figured out electricity back in these time periods. So this is all new. The style of wiring like that, it was huge. Just getting electricity put in your house was amazing. A lot of times what they did was they took a lot of these homes in the Philadelphia area had gas lighting. And that's where they ran gas pipes through the house. And then like you would have one at the hallway, and in every bedroom, it's a gas pipe that comes out of the wall. And they had a little turn key, and you could turn the gas on, and you would have a gas lantern in your room or in the hallway. And that was the primary lighting source for some of the homes, like in the mainline area as well as the surrounding areas of Philadelphia. And then knob and tube came about. And knob and tube kind of replaced that style. All right, and like I have a house that was built in 1769, and knob and tube was added to the house. So that and again, that was a little different. So they added knob and tube. So you can see where they cut the floorboards, they brought in the knob and tube conductors, and then you can see where later on they rewired all the knob and tube, and they used the same holes to run Romex wire. So if you look at the time periods, okay, you would be looking in pre-1920 style wiring. You're looking at having no green field, just single conductor knob and tube. All right, and the dates, if you want to go 1918 or 1921, so be it. So single conductor in the basement was before 1920. Then you add like your greenfield style wiring, okay, which is the armored cable. But then in the later years of the 20 is when the 2 conductor knob and tube came out. And that's like the very first primitive style Romex, if you want to call it that. And all 3 wires were used at the same time. Like you could find greenfield in the basement, go up to single conductor, and then every now and then, like where a switch would be, like going out to, like if you're in the Havertown area, the front porch light was ran with that cloth style Romex, which was the 2 conductors with that tar cloth outer jacket that ran up from the left side of your fireplace up and out onto your porch, and that was your porch light. So your porch light was often ran with that later style knob and tube, okay, or a non-grounded conductor, okay. But yeah, that's all 3 wires all within the same house during that time period. And so if you want to know a little bit more about facts, metal lath was invented in 1925, and metal lath is the type of lath, or I don't want to say it was invented, it was used before 25, but for the purpose of what I'm about to tell you, it wasn't. So if you're ever in a house that was built in 1926, 27, or 28, you'll notice the entire ceiling on the first floor has a metal style lath. It's wire mesh, okay, with wood lath. Okay, so you have your wood lath, they brown coated the wood lath in, and then they put in this wire mesh, and then they brown coated the wire mesh in, and then they did your skim coat. That wire mesh is there because prior to 1925, 25,000 people a year were dying from knob and tube fires, and they had to figure out a way to save lives, and they didn't know what to do, so they invented this metal lath that the fire would take longer to burn through than a wood lath, and it estimated to give the homeowner 5 additional minutes to get out of the home, and it saved countless lives. It was huge. It saved, like, the amount of people that were dying beforehand was incredible. So it's just a little bit of fact there. And yes, you can look it up. It's on the Bureau of Labor and Statistics from 1925, and you can research it and look into it. There's some other facts in there that's pretty interesting as well. But I just wanted to kind of clear up of the stages of knob and tube. When you do find knob and tube in homes built after 1930, it's very little, and 9 times out of 10, it's that 2 conductor. They went and your first floor was wired with Greenfield, which is the armored cable, okay? And then you could have single conductors running through the house, or you could have Greenfield come in, and then you could have the 2 conductor Romex go up to the light switch. For some reason, they felt like running Greenfield up to the first floor devices only was sufficient. And then, like, later on, after the 30s, they started using Greenfield more and more and more. We just replaced ceiling fans in a home that had Greenfield on the 2nd floor, and they were using the center fixture for their feed in and feed outs. There's a lot of different things they did with knob and tube. One thing that is extremely dangerous, and I was on a house on, I want to say it's Eagle Road in Havertown, where they used the hot conductor at the light, and all the switching in the house, including the 3-way switches, were the neutral. The neutral was switched everywhere. And it gets a little scary when you start thinking about a full load on a neutral just sitting there waiting to energize. Modern day electricity, there's no load on your neutral. The neutral sits up there, or the neutral runs through the box, and then your hot is switched, okay? The load doesn't get activated until the electricity gets to wherever it's going, all right, which is a pretty good safety technique. But back in the day, back in when knob and tube was around, they didn't understand that much yet, and they were switching the neutral, like on the 3-way switches, and that basically means whatever it was applying. If there was a switched outlet and there was like a fan, like that could be 2.5 amps just sitting on that switch. And if you were a handyman or whoever and you're going over and you're messing with that, even in modern today's standards, if the knob and tube hasn't been rewired, it could still be that way. That's a lot of load sitting on that switch. So basically what happens is if you have 2.5 amps, that fan is pulling. The moment you hit that switch and you complete that circuit, you have 2.5 amps running through that line. And that's a half an amp will kill someone. So to have that much, that's what makes knob and tube so dangerous. It's not just the fact that it's knob and tube, it's that there were so many different wiring techniques from back then that you don't know what you're getting yourself into unless your contractor knows exactly what style knob and tube system you have, how they ran it, where the feeds are. There's just so many. Now, I find it interesting. Like, I specialize in knob and tube, so I love all this. But to someone that doesn't know it, it can get pretty dangerous. So that's just my little history lesson on knob and tube, at least in the Philadelphia area. Thank you for watching. Take care. God bless.